Also telling, he was at the forefront of the campaigns and saying that Mbeere North was a done deal, that Malawa too was a done deal. There are these predictions that the opposition made, and they proved to be a bit off the mark.
Well, off the mark may be a sort of an overkill, because indeed, I've told you, well, a win, even with one vote, is a win. But the issue is that at what expense to the people of that area, at expense to the taxpayer, at what expense to the security agencies. But just let me just remind you that we did well. In Magarini, we got 8,000 votes by DCP, over 8,700 votes by DCP. And the UDA did not even present a candidate there, which tells you that some of the areas that we expected that we are not going to penetrate, we are going to penetrate. A place like Baringo, somebody was running as an independent, got over 30,000 votes. This tells you there is no alternative to UDA in some of these areas. In the past election, it was almost like 100,000 and nobody gets anything on the other side, including the loss by Gideon Moi in that particular area. The Abagusi, all the 3 seats that we won were a flip over from the other parties. ODM disappeared. Even the UDA candidate, coordinator ran away. And the ODM guy did not even present, some of the ODM guys did not present their papers. Now, Bungoma was yellow in the last election. This time, Bungoma is turning from yellow to another color, which is likely to be our color, by an independent candidate against Fort Kenya. In the polling station where Wetangula voted, his candidate lost in that polling station, which means that is home polling station. And finally, the bandwagon effect has not yet been created. The bandwagon in the sense that once we pick one presidential candidate and we have a set of leaders moving in certain direction, that is likely to generate more heat and generate more challenge to the ruling coalition. But today, the ruling coalition, the lineup is known. For us, we are united opposition, almost playing from different corners of the republic. Mm-hmm. So to really underestimate the fact that out of the 22 seats, if you are to add all the votes, and I've taken time to add for the MCS, and you do a calculation with certain coefficient, we get 56%. The UDA associated candidates, they're getting 46%. Okay. 44%, okay. Which means if that was a mini presidential election, we would have won by 56%. Okay.
But, okay. And,
add all the votes.
Yes.
This is something you can do after the studio. Add all the votes of those who are associated with us. Add all the votes of those who are not associated with us at the MCA level. Mm-hmm. Because you see, for members of parliament, it was ODM stronghold, and they had won in the last election. And UDA, as I told you, in Malaba, they had 40,000 votes. But this time, we took half of that, mm-hmm, away from UDA.
A lot has been said, and I think they've talked about the methods used, the methods employed, and everyone is talking about, yes, if they would not have done this, maybe it would have been different. But if we say, and you said it, that even for the state machinery to replicate the kind of methods they employed in the by-election, it would be difficult. But even for the united opposition, they'll also have been spread very thin to try and counter the same. Don't you think that replicating at whatever level could work in 2027?
Well, I think they say the state as the machinery or as the monopoly of violence. But this time round, it is not enough to mobilize all the askaris and to have the same numbers in all the parts of this republic. Because even now, our askari to the citizenry is still very low ratio. So when the public realizes that this is what the current regime wants to do, it will be overwhelmed by the presence of Kenyans who are already enraged. I'm happy that we didn't even want more seats, because we would have rested on our laurels that we are doing very well. This gives us time to sit down and to strategize on how to counter the measures of the security agencies.
Okay. So now back to the drawing board for the united opposition. Clearly no one wants to be associated with any loss. And moving forward, it's only about 17 months to the next, 18 months to the next, to the general elections.
Yes.
What happens now?
Now, I think what will happen is that we need to pick the lessons learned and then plan on the basis of the new lessons learned. And some of the lessons we have learned. We've learned that violence has been used and is likely to be used again in 2027. So we need to sit down as a team and agree, how do we counter this? I think basically it's a matter of saying 2027 is likely to be a red flag. So that being the case, what do we do to make it green? So that we minimize violence, and at that level then, because one of our key assumptions was that we are going to have a very fair game, that people will be able to step out of their houses, go cast their vote, and go home and wait for the results. That didn't happen. You saw cars being burned. So that means really, then as a united opposition, this time we are not going to underestimate the level of violence. And then we must be prepared.
You agree that you underestimated that?
It was that one I can tell you for sure. It was we never expect that people would get. You know, I never imagined the stakes would be so high from the Kenya Kwanza side that they can go to that extent of violence to win the seat. So I think from where I sit and our strategies and think tanks, that's a matter they must pick. The other matter they must pick.
Yet the violence witnessed in some areas was not necessarily from the Kenya Kwanza side. We saw some.
Yeah, basically, you know. At times they say there is a way you corner a cat, and the cat stops being a cat; it becomes a lion because it's cornered. It's a matter of death and life. So when you are cornered, even if you didn't have any intentions of reacting, then like you saw what happened to the house of our colleague Karasinga. When you get to a level where you want to kill my family in a house, and I'm there, what do I do? So this thing we are saying, that one area, we never got it right in terms of our prediction. That's why we are saying our predictions are not wrong. It's the assumptions which were wrong. The things we assumed will not happen, happened. And on the basis of that, it changed the whole scenario. The other bit is the element of money. I tell you, I participated, I went to Bere personally. And I'm telling you, the kind of money which was changing hands, I don't think in a general election, that's something we can sustain. So as a united opposition, we need to think about how do we handle the issue of money, during the election period. Because if we are to compete on the basis of money, obvious, we are disadvantaged. Money being used there was actually government money. It wasn't individual money. It was public resources being used.
It could still be affected.
The vehicles and all that. That's what we are saying now.
However, at whatever level.
That was another underestimation. We never expected people will go against what the Constitution says, that you don't apply public resources during elections. And that was done. So we must then get back to our drawing board and say, this assuming will happen again, what do we do? And the third item, which I think we must do, as we approach 2027, as a lesson learned, is the deployment of the security forces to the electoral areas. At some point, you go and you find like the police is all over the place. So is it that, when Kenyans see the police, they imagine there's a problem, even if there's no problem.